Welcome, beautiful souls, to a topic we don't often talk about openly, but truly need to. Today we're discussing something that, if understood deeply, has the potential to change the way you connect with your partner and improve your intimacy in the most profound ways possible. Let's talk about why he feels so good when only the tip of his penis goes a little deep inside you. And trust me, it's not just about the physicality of it. It's about something deeper, something that goes beyond the body and taps into that emotional connection that so many of us crave. You might be wondering, why would that feel better? Or what does that even mean? And mates, well, by the end of this video, you'll understand why this matters, how it strengthens your bond, and why it's one of the most intimately fulfilling things you can do for each other. This isn't just about the act itself. It's about emotional connection, vulnerability, and mutual satisfaction. Things that make us feel seen, heard, and deeply loved. It's about keeping the flame of intimacy alive without the need for extreme physicality, making every moment mean something deeper. Before we dive deeper, let's acknowledge that intimacy isn't just about performing in the bedroom. It's about creating connection, about having those raw moments where you're emotionally aligned and physically present for one another. So subscribe if you haven't already, and let's begin this beautiful journey together of learning how to build a stronger emotional and physical bond with your partner. Let's break it down first. The tip of his penis is one of the most sensitive areas of his body. It's not just about feeling good. It's about triggering emotional responses that go beyond physical pleasure. There are more nerve endings in the tip than any other part of his body, which is why just the tip going in can feel incredibly intense, even when it's just a small amount. But why does this heightened sensation matter so much in terms of emotional connection? Matthew Hussey often talks about the fact that intimacy isn't just a physical act. It's emotional. And when you create this kind of sensation, you're tapping into something that forces you both to slow down and experience deep intimacy. Every inch, every touch is felt emotionally. Now think about this for a second. What happens when you slow down in intimacy? When there's less pressure to go all in, the anticipation builds, and the connection becomes more intimate. When the tip is inside, the entire experience becomes more mental and emotional, especially when you are both fully aware of how deeply vulnerable that moment feels. You see, it's not always about being fully penetrated or having everything go in. It's about the tension, the emotional suspense that builds when your bodies are close, but not entirely consumed. This is where the connection deepens. Have you ever noticed how much the buildup before the full penetration creates a sense of emotional intensity? How does that tension change the way you connect emotionally? If this is making you think about your own connection, hit like and share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever felt the emotional buildup during intimacy? Let's talk about it. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights into improving emotional and physical intimacy. Now let's take a deeper dive into the psychological side of things. Why does anticipation play such a huge role in intimacy? Carl Jung taught us that intimacy, in its truest form, is about connecting on the subconscious level, where we open ourselves up to each other in the most vulnerable ways possible. And anticipation is the key to unlocking this level of intimacy. When you hold back just a little, when only the tip enters, it creates a kind of anticipatory tension. This builds desire in both partners, making the eventual release far more intense, emotionally and physically. It makes every touch feel more meaningful, and the buildup itself can lead to a more intense emotional release when the moment finally arrives. Jung's theories on intimacy were rooted in psychological engagement. He believed that connection isn't just physical, it's emotional and psychological. When your partner feels that tension, that anticipation, it taps into his psychological desire for connection. It's a subtle but incredibly powerful way to communicate to him that you're emotionally engaged, not just physically. This idea of anticipation and emotional engagement is one of the key elements in keeping a relationship healthy and intimately connected. When men feel this emotional anticipation, they're more likely to feel safe, desired, and appreciated, which ultimately leads to a stronger emotional bond. What do you think happens when you're emotionally engaged in the anticipation of intimacy rather than rushing to the physical act? How does that build connection and trust? Like, if this insight is starting to shift your perspective, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever noticed how much the mental buildup affects your emotional connection during intimacy? Subscribe for more deep dives into intimacy and emotional connection. Here's where it gets really interesting: emotional vulnerability. When the tip of his penis enters just slightly, it forces both of you into a space of vulnerability and emotional connection. Jessica Opare speaks about emotional vulnerability in relationships, especially when it comes to intimacy. Vulnerability isn't just about letting your guard down. It's about opening yourself emotionally and allowing your partner to see you at your most raw and authentic. This type of intimacy builds trust and deepens your emotional bond. Think about it. When you're close, when you're both vulnerable, there's a deep emotional connection that forms. In these moments, when there's a slow buildup, when there's a sense of anticipation and connection, you're allowing your partner to experience you on a level beyond just physical pleasure. This is why emotional vulnerability is so powerful, because it shifts the focus from physical gratification to emotional satisfaction. Men need to feel emotionally connected in order to be fulfilled, and that emotional fulfillment keeps the relationship intact and prevents the desire for something outside of it. Have you ever felt more connected to your partner during emotionally vulnerable moments, even without the physical act being intense? How did that emotional intimacy shape your connection? If this resonates with you, hit like, comment below, and share how emotional vulnerability has impacted your connection. Subscribe for more insights into creating deeper emotional intimacy in your relationships. Now let's talk about the foundation of it all: trust. When he enters just the tip, there's a moment of trust that builds between you both. Trust isn't just about knowing your partner is faithful. It's about feeling emotionally safe and secure in each other's presence. Matthew Hussey talks about how emotional safety is the core of intimacy, and when you slow down, when you give each other space to experience pleasure without rushing to the finish line, it builds an incredible sense of trust. Why? Because trust is built on vulnerability, and vulnerability is built on emotional safety. When you create a space of emotional safety, both partners feel free to be themselves, and there's no pressure to perform. Emotional intimacy leads to physical satisfaction. And men don't just need their bodies touched, they need their hearts touched too. Trust and emotional safety keep the bond strong. When your partner feels safe in both your arms and your heart, he doesn't need to look outside of the relationship. He's fulfilled, and he's emotionally connected to you in ways that transcend physical intimacy. What happens when both partners feel emotionally safe and trust each other? How does that build a more profound connection and prevent the desire for external attention? Like, if you believe that trust and emotional safety are at the core of strong relationships, comment below about how emotional safety has impacted your relationship, and don't forget to subscribe for more tips on building deeper emotional and physical intimacy. Finally, let's talk about the emotional fulfillment that comes from less intensity. Less isn't always a bad thing. In fact, sometimes less intensity can bring more connection. When only the tip of his penis goes deep inside, it forces both of you to focus on emotional engagement rather than just the physical. This brings about a more fulfilling emotional experience and mutual pleasure that leaves you both feeling connected in a way that's hard to describe. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." And that's what happens in these moments of less intense intimacy. You both transform the experience into one of emotional connection, where the energy between you isn't just physical, it's personal, emotional, and profound. When you slow down and allow the energy to build emotionally, you create a much more satisfying and fulfilling experience for both of you. The energy is not rushed. It's felt deeply, it's experienced fully. What would happen if you focused on emotional fulfillment over intensity during intimacy? How does this change the way you connect with your partner? If this makes sense to you, like and comment below. Share your thoughts on how focusing on emotional fulfillment has impacted your intimacy. And of course, subscribe for more ways to enhance the emotional and physical connection with your partner. So there you have it. Why he feels so good when only the tip goes inside is not just about physical pleasure. It's about emotional connection, anticipation, trust, and vulnerability. When you slow down and focus on emotional intimacy, you're creating a deeper bond that doesn't just last for the night, it lasts for the relationship. Emotional intimacy is what keeps the spark alive in long-term relationships, and it's the secret to fulfilling your partner without the need for external satisfaction. If this video helped you understand how emotional intimacy can transform your relationship, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share your thoughts with me below, and let's continue this conversation on how we can create deeper, more fulfilling relationships.